we talk about it having last happened in 1294 or 1415 and in 1294. Those are the only really comparable situations, and both of them are a long time ago. But neither were truly comparable. I mean, in this case, the Pope has completely freely resigned. I mean, in 1415, they were the popes were competing popes of the day, and both those felt obliged to resign. And in 1294, the Pope, more similarly, I suppose, felt that he wasn't up to the job. But there's a good chance he was also being eased out by the man who, in fact, became his successor. So it is really, something completely new for the Catholic Church in its long history.
He talked a lot about wanting, I suppose, to be more private. It was all about the fact that a pope has to dedicate so much of his life to maintaining the church, of course, but he does much of that in public. He, in fact, gives over his whole life to the public. And he talked about this, what seemed to be a want for privacy and prayer, and that he's returning to that, but he's still very much a part of what happens at the Vatican and very much a part of what goes on. What did you make of that?
Well, it's a bit puzzling, really, isn't it? I mean, I can entirely understand him wanting more privacy. I mean, popes live their lives in public, as do, of course, monarchs to a large extent and so on. But he is a rather private person, individually, personally, he's a rather private man. He wants to get back to his books and his cats. He wants to get back to prayer. He's obviously coming towards the end of his life. I mean, he's 85 odd. So I entirely understand that. What I don't understand is saying that he intends to be part of it all, because I think that could be disastrous if we took that at his face value. I mean, he's going to be living in the Vatican. I always presumed that he's staying in the Vatican because it's the safest place for him to be. I mean, away from people who might make his residence, if he was anywhere else, into a shrine or a rallying point or so on. But the notion that you've got two people who claim to be Pope, in a sense, is really going to be very confusing. And of course, I think many people thought that when he resigned, he'd go back to being called Cardinal Ratzinger. But in fact, he's going to be called Pontiff Emeritus. It's a title that has never, ever been used before.
Well, very interesting you should say that, because I wanted to throw this forward and talk about conclave and what comes next. I mean, obviously, we can't be sure who the next pope will be, but this is a very interesting point that you make. The fact that he's been given this title means, is he basically going to be right there in the shadows and still actually very prominent?
Well, he's going to be in the shadows. I mean, he's too old to vote in the conclave as it happens, because he can't vote until you're over 80. But anyway, I'm sure he wouldn't do that. That would be a ridiculous situation. But the cardinal electors, however many there are going to be by the time we get to the cardinal, they seem to be dropping off the twigs. They're now 115, I think, at the last count. The cardinal electors will be looking over their shoulder and saying to themselves, well, I wonder if Benedict would approve of this.